Welcome to our vlog series on human adaptation. My name is Pippa Bailey and I'm Head of Research Innovation at Ipsos MORI. Over the next few weeks we will deliver a number of vlogs which explore how the coronavirus is impacting our behaviours across all areas of life, business, media, brands and society, and discuss how shifts we are experiencing now may evolve and shape our attitudes and behaviours in the future. We will offer some pithy and provocative food for thought by drawing on analysis from our experts across different industries and areas such as behavioural science, cultural analysis, societal trends, passive monitoring and social intelligence. Hello, welcome to this, our third vlog in the Human Adaptation series. We'll discuss the inherent contradiction between human motivations and behaviour. For example, the tension between the need for indulgence and comfort versus the need for human betterment to be fitter, healthier and smarter. We'll look at the sudden change in media consumption, which has been profound over the last few weeks, whether that be the consumption of news or entertainment, and the opportunities that this provides for both platforms and for content creators. And we'll look at consumer goods, how the entrenched shopping behaviours of the past have been disrupted in our desire to make sure that we can, the very basic need of supplying food for our family continues, and how this may change for the role for big brands, for emerging categories, and for online channels and more. Many thanks.
Hi there, my name is Amy Thompson and I am a director in our qualitative team specialising in digital methodologies. So life can feel pretty unfamiliar at the moment and we're all finding our way in circumstances that our lifestyles haven't necessarily been designed around. So this means we're seeing a lot of different consumer behaviour in research. So for example, how we spend our time, how we shop and how we keep in touch. But actually, when we start to unpick the motivations behind these new behaviours, then we can see that this behaviour is actually driven by the same fundamental human motivations that we've always had. So I wanted to give a few examples of what I mean by these motivations and how they're currently being addressed. So the first motivation that I wanted to explore is the idea of security. So security is all about a sense of relaxation, tranquility and safety. It's about those moments when we really need to retreat and to recharge, and we're looking for experiences that soothe us, that comfort us and take away the stresses and strains of daily life. These are times when we withdraw either physically or mentally to a space that is familiar, it's free from worry and responsibility. So in essence, it's about feeling safe and cared for. And in these times of social distancing, we're definitely seeing the rise of the comfort zone. I don't know about you, but I'm spending a bit more time on the sofa and surrounded by those closest to me, so those that I live with, and also maybe spending a bit more time in pyjamas or in comfortable clothes. It's all about whatever it takes to get through, and that's okay. So these choices are driven by familiarity, by comfort and nostalgia. So that might mean in terms of categories, for example, food and drink might be geared towards comfort food. It might also mean that there's an element of nostalgia in entertainment choices. And also maybe it's about falling back on well-established, trusted big brands rather than taking a risk on something new and unknown. The second motivation that I wanted to cover is potentially in tension to the first idea of security, but I want to think about this idea of recognition. So generally, when we think about the need for recognition, we're thinking about feeling unique, special and ahead of the pack. It reflects the need to stand out from the crowd and break convention. So recognition is all about being proud of your own special abilities and competences. So that could be intellectually or culturally or even materially. And this motivation is summed up in social distancing for me by one person, and that would be Joe Wicks. So I don't know whether you're taking part in his daily PE exercises or maybe you've taken up other forms of exercise. You might have started an online course, found a new interest or renewed a long lost hobby. Whatever it is, the emphasis here is on purpose. So we're trying to layer on meaning into our current times with this intention to come out bigger, better, stronger, maybe having the perfect downward facing dog, or whatever it is that you set your mind to. So there's a huge brand opportunity here. I'd argue that there's never really been a better time to deliver practical, bite-sized resources to people to help foster a sense of self-achievement and improvement. This will ultimately help maintain brand relevance despite the fact our lives have drastically changed for the foreseeable. However, this does need to be delivered carefully and accessibly so it doesn't add pressure to an already difficult time for some in terms of mental health. So the final motivation that I wanted to talk about today is enjoyment. So enjoyment is all about maximising the pleasure in life and finding enjoyment without worrying about consequences. So that might be overindulging, it might be losing inhibitions, it's certainly about spontaneity and following your instincts and really living for the moment. Now you might be wondering why we're talking about hedonism in these times, and it certainly looks harder to come by from what we have seen in the research. But we're seeing behaviour which shows people can still find this, even if it's just in pockets. So enjoyment comes from what we have and what we have around us at the moment, and that can be big or small. So it's about finding the little joys in life. That could be the morning cup of coffee, it could be the video chat with good friends, or just a bit of time in nature during daily time outside. So with this in mind, thinking about your brand, what little moments of enjoyment and appreciation can your brand create for consumers during social distancing? When it comes to our professional lives working in insight, it's never been more important for brands to renew their understanding of how behaviours, mindsets and attitudes are changing. At the same time, social distancing means that we're severely limited in our opportunities to connect and truly understand one another's reality. And that's particularly true for traditional qualitative research methodologies. So technology-enabled qual, so that could be communities, it could be social intelligence, that is still there to help us facilitate consumer connection, to help us build empathy and generate in-context understanding of the new normal we're all finding ourselves in. Overall today, I wanted to demonstrate that yes, life feels very different and people have changed their behaviour and routines drastically. As a brand, it can be really hard to apply what you thought you knew about your consumers to these circumstances. But actually, we're all still the same people, just in a very different world. So by stripping back to our fundamental needs and motivations, whether that's security, recognition, enjoyment, or something else entirely, we can use that lens in digital qualitative research to help make sense of these behaviours and uncover opportunities.
Hi, I'm Becky Goodfield and I head up our custom media research here at Ipsos in the UK. One of the key areas where we've seen a huge amount of change during lockdown has been in the consumption of media and technology. As our lives have increasingly been confined to our own homes, of course, many of our normal everyday routines have effectively been thrown up into the air. And with that too, many of the media behaviours that we would ordinarily associate with those routines. So just think about the time when you wake up in the morning, your daily commute, your lunchtime walk to the shops, maybe the activities that you do either with your friends or with your children after work in the evenings. All of those different situations have changed now. And so many of the media we're consuming have changed, and also the times that we're choosing to consume that media, or even we might be choosing to consume something completely different altogether. At the same time, many of our personal needs are also in flux. We need to find new and different ways to support ourselves in keeping fit at home, in educating children, in entertaining ourselves, or connecting with people outside of the household. Many of us have greater strains on our mental health. Many of us have become news junkies during this time. And many of us are also finding real voids in the content that we would like to consume normally, such as sport or drama, where things aren't currently happening or being produced. And so we're needing to find new and different ways of filling that time, filling those needs, and making sure that our personal needs are met during lockdown. At the same time, many people across the country have more time on their hands. So all of this is coming together to mean that there's greater demand for media, for content and for connectivity than we ordinarily would see. And we're also seeing a willingness among people to trial new and different technology or media to meet these demands. So ultimately, media and technology behaviour is changing. Many of these changes will of course be fleeting, but some of them will stick and be with us long after lockdown is over. So this is a time of real risk and opportunity for media and technology brands. The onus is on us to stay close to audiences, to understand the changes that are happening, why they're happening, and to quantify those changes so that we can help to inform better strategy. In doing this, one of the key challenges being faced by the media industry is the impact of coronavirus on some of the big measurement studies that are used to quantify media behaviour. Some of these, for example, were really reliant on face-to-face interviews, which of course aren't available at this time. But one of the ways that Ipsos has been able to continue to measure media behaviour and audiences has been through the ongoing study with the BBC called Compass. This is a passive measurement study, which means we use passive technology that people carry with them all the time that can be there during coronavirus lockdown period at the time when this media behavioural change is happening. We install media cell technology on people's mobile phones and reality mind technology on other online devices. And through this, we can measure exposure to TV, radio, and online content and services. Through Compass, we've been able to quantify the significant jumps that have happened in media behaviour throughout the onset of the lockdown period. So this chart is showing the percentage and increase of time with TV, with online, and with social media in week 1 of lockdown compared to the weeks of 2020 that preceded it. So you can see just how big that behavioural change was. But of course, it's not just about quantifying the change, it's also about understanding it. At this time, we think it's really, really important to get as close as we possibly can to audiences, to be there with them in their living rooms at the time when their new needs are happening, when their media consumption is happening, so we can identify the gaps, the opportunities, and also the strengths that your media have. We're achieving this in a world of social distancing through in-home, self-filmed video immersions and diaries, such as this great study that we've been doing with Thinkbox to demonstrate the value that TV is happening during the lockdown period. So the best and the most successful media and technology players during lockdown are the ones who can build really strong connections with audiences by continually understanding and meeting their changing needs during this challenging period. But of course, we all hope that lockdown won't last forever. Those that will continue to be successful post-lockdown are the ones who can use this period of time where there's increased demand to really demonstrate the breadth and the depth of their offer and to show that they can continue to be relevant to people once lockdown's finished. We're of course only partway through the whole lockdown experience and journey, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to learn and a lot more that will change in audience behaviour as they continue to adapt to this new situation. They'll try new services and they'll continue to evolve their routine. So staying close to audiences during this time is really, really key. And measuring behaviour and identifying audience needs is more important now than it's ever been.
Most of us are creatures of habit, and it's at times like these where lots of our current habits are being challenged and potentially new ones are being formed. As my perpetually dry hands will attest, increased, more vigorous hand washing is part of my routine, and it's amazing how quickly that habit has stuck. So what does this mean, if anything, for the world of consumer goods, services and retail? Well, usually when we're considering buying something new at a supermarket, we're subconsciously trading off the potential benefits of buying that something new versus what we might lose if we don't buy our usual product. And very often it's our status quo bias that trumps our curiosity, and we end up buying the same things. Now, during lockdown, our retail choices and our product choices are reduced, and we're often forced to override our natural biases. So, we can't get your usual deodorant, well, you'll buy something else, and maybe the fragrance is better on that one, and it's less sticky, so you might continue using that. This overall gives us a lot of idea about opportunity and also on risk, and personally I'm really interested in understanding what's going to happen with premium brands. Are people going to be trying those for the first time, trading up and realise there's a real step change in quality? Or are people going to be trading down and realising there's plenty of other acceptable alternatives? Feels to me like it's the right time to be dusting off that competitive benchmarking programme. It's also not the right time to scale back on your innovation testing. we're asked a lot at the moment, is this the right time to test innovation? Should we be doing that? And of course, within Ipsos, we have a vested interest in saying yes. But what we did is we looked back at concepts that we tested during the last crisis, the financial crisis of 2008-2009, to see what we could learn from that. And what's really interesting is that during crisis times, we saw that actually concepts tended to be rated a little bit higher trial potential. And also interestingly, the ratings of people's current products was a little bit lower. They were seen to be a little bit less relevant and less able to meet needs. And both of these points reinforce the idea that during a crisis, consumers are still open to new product ideas. But not any new ideas, and we can't just have bad ideas sneaking through past our lowered biases. We tested a bunch of concepts in the US in January and retested them again just this April to see whether there would be any shifts. And what we found was that those concepts that did well in January were still the ones that did well in April. And also, those ones which didn't do so well and we would have recommended not to go forward, that recommendation still stood. Now, there's going to be some categories where perhaps there isn't so much of this shifting around, and maybe, let's say, something like healthcare, those current brands are more likely to be trusted and less likely to be switched away from. And we may see that pressures on cost and expense may prevent some switching and maintaining behaviours. But for many, many product categories, we're seeing this period of instability could also be a period of opportunity. Now, it's not just the products that people buy and they want to choose that is being challenged, but also how people get those products. I was always surprised at the relatively low levels of regular online grocery shopping that's used in the UK. But during these times, we're seeing that just under a quarter of people in the UK are saying that they're using online grocery shopping more as a result of the coronavirus. Now, because of many different things, you may find that perhaps there isn't going to be a step change in uptake of online grocery shopping. For everyone who's using it, there may be people who are frustrated by it or don't like the experience, as well as people who do like it. And of course that there are retailer capacity issues and pressures on their margins. So we may not see a big shift up, but certainly I think we will see that people are at least experimenting more and perhaps being a little bit more open. And as maybe retail environments are not going to be quite as pleasant for a little while as they might previously have been, having that online option could be strong. Now, something where I think we may well see more of a step change is around subscription services and direct deliveries, as people find new ways to get the products they want. Personally speaking, a year ago, I wasn't getting dishwasher detergent and laundry capsules through the post, but I am now. And I know at least one colleague who's got a subscription service for loo roll and having that regularly delivered to their door. And across many, many product categories, we're seeing new models and new relationships being formed. And as they're relatively frictionless, it's quite possible that many of these new relationships will be maintained. Now, generally speaking, people are pretty poor at predicting what the future is going to be like. So it's no surprise that people are rather optimistic about some of these new choices and new behaviours and that they will stick longer term. But what I think we need to think about is it's just much more important for us to explore, well, what is driving these? What is happening with these new behaviours? What were the cues to adoption? What's keeping them going? What's the reward? And what barriers might still exist? And if we can understand those, we can better understand whether there's opportunities for the future. Overall, the way people shop for things and what they shop for is changing. And some things are going to stick and some things work. We don't know exactly. But what I think we do know is that companies who did research during the last recession were better able to predict what might happen in the future and were better able to prepare for what to do next.
We are constantly learning and adapting about how we are currently engaging with people, customers, consumers, the public. With heightened emotion and sensitivity, we all need to act with thought and consideration for positive outcomes. Thank you for listening. Please do join us again next time.